Okay, so I'm being told that there is no slides, so let's see what we can do about that. My name is Lenny Orlov, and I will be your host this morning. We will learn quite a bit about our community presenters organizations. We're starting to celebrate Pride with Age Friendly Seattle. We will also get a brief update on COVID-19 vaccinations and hear a word from our sponsor, the Seattle Public Library. If you are here for the first time, and if this content does bring you value, we would love for you to subscribe to our channel and enabling notifications. But what I would like to do right now, give an acknowledgement to the land that the city of Seattle is on. At Seattle Human Services, we acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, past and present. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. Please visit www.duwamishtribe.org to learn more about the Duwamish, people of the inside, people who are still here, and find out how you can get involved. And we thank you very much. We're beginning to celebrate Pride Month with this special 90-minute panel. We'll meet Tom Rasmussen from the AMP, AIDS Memorial Pathway, Amy Cunningham, Aging with Pride IDEA, which stands for Innovations in Dementia Empowerment and Action, at the University of Washington School of Social Work, and Stephen Knipp, who is with Gen Pride, and both Stephen and Amy are making their return appearances on this program. We have three moderators here in the virtual studio today. They are Gira Hammam, Justin England, and Meg Wolf. As the questions come in, whether on the phone or online, one of the moderators will capture it and pass it along to the presenters, and we'll actually read it out on the show so that folks on the phone are aware of the question that is being asked. I do want to invite folks, if you have a question that goes beyond what's being discussed here today, beyond the presentation of one of our three panelists or the library or human services department which we represent, there is an organization, it's a network of organizations actually, called Community Living Connections. And it's organizations in your community where you can turn to with any questions about aging or disability. And you could also walk into one of the organizations that's a member of the network. And to find out where they are, you can visit their website, which is communitylivingconnections.org, or you can call them at 1-844-348-5464, again, with any question related to aging and disability. It can be services, resources like food and meals, and rent assistance, and the like. Thank you for sharing this resource with your networks. And let's now go on to the next slide. Close to Home does have a sister program, the program that precedes it by a dozen years. It's called Age Friendly Seattle Civic Coffee Hour. Unlike this program, Close to Home, which is only virtual and it happens on the first Thursday of every month, on the third Thursday of each month, we offer an opportunity for elders to connect with government leaders. Today's panel is from the community, but on the third Thursday, we welcome folks from city government, county government, state, and sometimes federal. We're going to continue celebrating Pride, and we will welcome a panel from the city of Seattle. Cheryl Brown is the Lifelong Recreation Program Coordinator with Parks and Recreation. We will also hear from Dominique Stevens with the Mayor's Office and with Kristen Ramirez from the Arts and Culture Office at the city. All will talk about how the city engages with the LGBTQ community throughout the year and specifically during Pride Month. Happens in the same place at the same time, all virtual at the moment. In that URL, by the way, bit.ly/age friendly live. The capitalization is important, and the words age friendly and live are capitalized. Coffee Hour, it's been around for maybe closer to 15 years now. And it's a partnership since 2020 with the Seattle Public Library. You can see their logo on there with a nice globe superimposed over a book. I think this whole global approach is what we've gotten really good at in this virtual environment, and possibly folks from around the world are watching right now. We certainly welcome you, and we hope that you take advantage of the languages that we have included here. But our sponsor, the Seattle Public Library, has been a really great partner in this process. We used to meet together in one of the great rooms over in the Central Branch. And currently they join us to talk about their reopening. And that's what we'll hear about. If we go to the next slide, we will be welcoming to the live show Nancy Sloat, who is our resident agent in charge of age friendliness at the library. We have an agent. Nancy is actually the older adults program manager at SPL, and I believe the library is getting ever so close to being open. So Nancy, what have you got for us?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Lenny, and good morning. I am the Older Adults Program Manager at the library, and I create programs and services to make the library age-friendly and accessible to everyone. And I offer advice to the library about the kinds of programming and the kinds of services that we can offer. So I know that some of you have probably been to other of our programs, but I do want to give you an update on what's new at the library. And before I start, I also just want to say how much I appreciate our partnership with Age Friendly and Seattle Aging and Disability Services, Seattle Human Services. So could I have the next slide? Yes, we are opening up for in-person visits. We actually have 5 branches now that are open for in-person: Beacon Hill, Lake City, and Southwest. And we also have the Broadview branch open. And literally this week, we just had the Ballard branch that opened. And really good news, next week, we're going to have Douglas Truth branch and the Rainier Beach branch open. So could I have the next slide? What can you actually do in the in-person branches? On my slide here, we have computers and Wi-Fi. We have scanners. We have charging stations. You can pick up your holds. You can just sit and think about things in the library. You can get a library card. And then just this week, we added in browsing the collections. That's probably my most favorite part of the library, and being able to discover new titles and new things. So we're happy that we can do that. In terms of computers, we do have a way for library staff to help you at a safe distance. So that's good to know if you need help with technology. Could I have the next slide? Those in-person branches are now going to be open from 10 to 6 every day. And then there'll be a period of time in the middle of the day from 1:30 to 2:30 where the libraries will be closed, and the staff will be able to do some cleaning and take breaks and things like that. So if you actually have questions about the hours of the library, or what libraries are open, please get a hold of our telephone information line, which is called Quick Info. And I'll read that phone number: 206-386-4636. And actually, if you prefer to get online and ask a question by email or live chat with library staff member, you can do that as well. So we try to make that easy for you to get information from us. Could I have the next slide? If there is a line or it's difficult to get out of your car, you can call the branch once you get there, and library staff will check out your materials that are on hold and bring them out to your car for you. So make sure that you use that if that will be helpful. And I just also want to say that the libraries have also increased to 50% capacity. We're following public health guidelines. And I've been into a number of branches. There's plenty of capacity there. I've never had to wait to get into the building. So if you live close to any of those branches and the new ones that are opening, Douglas Truth and Rainier Beach, please go to the library. It just feels good. The comments that we've been getting from patrons are, it just feels good to be in the library again. It's just a good space for a lot of people. Could I have the next slide? So one thing I just wanted to point out is that one of the services that we have is called LEAP. It stands for Library Equal Access Program. And it's a program of service for anybody who needs any kind of accessibility or extra help using the library collections or finding information or learning how to use technology. And we actually have a physical lab down at the Central Library. It's not open yet, which has lots of different equipment and lots of different software, magnification software like Zoom or JAWS, which is text-to-speech, for example. And the in-person branches have some of this software too. So if you need to find out and you need some accessibility tools to access the library, please, you can email, and I'll read that email address off, leap@spl.org, or you can call 206-615-1380. You can leave a phone message at there, and if somebody will get back to you if needed by relay. So there is a way to get a hold of staff. Could I have the next slide? Okay, this is terrific. I just discovered this, that many libraries in the area are working with the state library in the state of Washington to offer free Discover Passes, which was such a great idea. The Discover Passes are what you need to park at and use the state parks or wildlife areas or the water areas, and they call them water access points. And so we have a limited number of the passes. You have to put them on hold, and then you go pick them up, just like a book hold. And you can have them for 2 weeks. So what a great idea. I think so many people want to get outside. And, you know, if you had to buy it yourself, it's $30, $35 for an annual pass. So this is I love this, that we're able to offer these Discover Passes. And in the library, in the catalog, just type in Discover Pass, and you will find out how to, you'll find the Discover Pass in the catalog and be able to place a hold. Could I have the next slide? And then I know I talked about this last time, but I'm really pushing Book Bingo. This is the adult summer reading program. We've been going for about 7 years, and we partner with Seattle Arts and Lecture. And so we have different categories in those boxes. I don't know if you can see them, but categories like Made You Laugh, or Asian American or Pacific Islander author, or a beach read, which is, you know, a quick, light read. You don't have to pay too much attention to it. It's sort of like book candy. And basically you fill out a row, or a vertical row or horizontal, for a bingo, and then you can submit your card for a drawing for gift certificates from independent bookstores. And if you do a total blackout, there's a really great prize, a couple of prizes, but one of which is free subscription tickets for next year for Seattle Arts and Lecture, which is a great prize. So I don't know if anybody wants to have some fun, but if anybody has been doing book bingo and wants to put some names of books in the Q&A, that would be kind of cool. The card comes in English and Spanish, and you can print it out on your own printer, or you can ask the library to do it for you. So have fun with book bingo, and you really have lots of months to get going and get reading. So could I have the next card? So what's a library without author programs? We have offered hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of virtual programs since the pandemic started, and I've loved our author programs. There are two coming up. There's many coming up in June, but these two were particularly interesting to me. We have a program on June 8th on Hemingway. And I love the subtitle, Misogynistic or Misunderstood. There's lots been written about Hemingway. And we'll be talking to the producers of a new Ken Burns film on Hemingway. Ken Burns, of course, has done lots of documentaries. I think he's well known for his documentary on the Civil War. It should be a great program. And then our second program is on June 14th. It's called We Hereby Refuse. And that's partnering with the Densho Group, with Wing Luk Museum, Elliott Bay Books. And it's the voices of 3 Japanese Americans who raised their voices in defiance of imprisonment in the concentration camps during World War II. And it's actually, the book itself is a graphic novel. And if you've never read a graphic novel, it tells stories, either fiction or nonfiction, with illustrations, drawings, and text. And in fact, a graphic novel is one of the boxes on the Book Bingo program. So there you go. You need to register for those programs, and that registration would be at www.spl.org/calendar. And the next slide. I just wanted to invite you to visit the older adults pages on the library website at www.spl.org/nextchapter. We have our programs listed there. We have book lists, we have resource lists, we have blog posts. So we're constantly changing that content and adding new content. And then my final slide is just, I invite you to contact me at the library at nancy.sloat@spl.org. If you'd like to talk about our services, if you have questions about the library, even reference questions, and I would be delighted to talk with you. So thanks, everybody, and back to you, Lenny.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I appreciate you, as always, sharing updates from the library. I had originally planned to actually go online and go through coronavirus.wa.gov because there is a hidden web page in there. Coronavirus.wa.gov is the website that the state of Washington Department of Health has set up to provide updates on COVID-19 in general, but also on vaccinations. And vaccine locator information is available there. You can do that online in over 30 languages, which is pretty amazing. You can also call 1-800-525-0127 to find out where vaccines are available or with any questions about COVID-19. And that's also multilingual. If you prefer to use your cell phone to text, you can go ahead and text your zip code to a short number, 438-829, and you'll get an immediate response with a number of locations and the name of the vaccine that's available there. And why are we talking about vaccines? Well, because our governor is planning to open up the state if 70% of us are vaccinated by the end of this month, and everybody 12 and older is eligible. In fact, Children's Hospital is now looking to enroll kids as young as 6 months and through 11 years of age for clinical trials for that age group. And those of us who are parents of younger kids may be interested in that opportunity, but in general, in the fact that this is moving along. So how do you get to the hidden webpage? You'll see at the bottom of the slide, it says you and your family. It's a link that this webpage has. If you click that, it opens up resources for families, and that the hidden page is not there yet because it's hidden. If you scroll down and click on any of the topics, like for example, there's a 65 plus topic that you can click. All of a sudden, in the left navigation bar, there is this, in all caps, life after vaccine. Really, actually, a really nice resource. It talks about, sort of like unusual situations that we may have not have thought of. I mentioned kids at the outset. For example, what the website says is that if you're fully vaccinated, but there are people in your household who aren't fully vaccinated, in terms of visitors, you should treat your household as unvaccinated. It's kind of an interesting thing. I didn't even think about that. Check it out. The state really takes a lot of time to set this up. So we hope that you will share this resource with people in your lives. All right. So next up on the next slide, we have our first presenter, who is Amy Cunningham. You see a couple of names there, but Amy is our presenter today. Amy is making a return appearance on this show. She was here almost a year ago to the date. I'm going to read the bio here and then bring Amy onto the stage. She's been a research coordinator at the University of Washington in both the School of Nursing and School of Social Work. For now, I've updated my previous bio for now 26 years. She has coordinated over 20 studies in the School of Nursing Northwest Research Group on Aging. These studies have explored behavioral interventions designed to assist older adults with a multitude of issues such as insomnia, osteoarthritis pain, menopause, caregiving, memory loss, and dementia. Amy's current position is with the School of Social Work's Aging with Pride IDEA project, which seeks to help adults with memory loss and their care partners in the LGBTQ community. June is Pride Month, but June is also Alzheimer's and memory. It's a month that recognizes memory loss. It's so great to have you back on the program, Amy. I think your mic is open. So welcome back, and you're live.
Great. Thanks so much, Lenny. Good morning, everyone. And thanks so much for inviting me back to talk about Aging with Pride IDEA. Aging with Pride IDEA is a study being done out of the University of Washington School of Nursing, and the co-principal investigators are Karen Fredrickson Goldson from the School of Social Work and Linda Terry from the School of Nursing. And the study is supported by a grant from the National Institutes on Aging, which is part of the National Institutes on Health. Next slide. So Aging with Pride IDEA is the first federally funded research study examining ways to improve the health and quality of life for adults aged 50 and older with memory problems and their caregivers in the LGBTQ plus community. So first, what I want to do is talk a little bit about memory loss and caregiving in the LGBTQ community. And then I'm going to give you some specific information about Aging with Pride IDEA and what we're doing for the community. Next slide, please. Why study this community? Well, there's a rapid growth of LGBTQ plus older adults with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. LGBTQ older adults have higher rates of social isolation. They're less likely to be married or have children and more likely to live alone. They have higher rates of some chronic conditions and risk factors for dementia, including depression, cardiovascular disease, smoking, and social isolation. As a group, they're often medically underserved, stigmatized, and vulnerable, and there's a lack of efficacious research-based interventions for this group. Next slide. It's estimated that there are 2.7 million adults aged 50 and older who self-identify as LGBTQ+ in the US. 1.1 million are 65 and older. By the year 2060, the number of LGBTQ+ older adults will exceed 5 million. And 10% of LGBTQ older adults report severe or extreme cognitive difficulties. 38% report moderate cognitive difficulties in at least one area, and 77 report mild cognitive difficulties in at least one area. And cognitive difficulties are what we call things like having difficulty with judgment, memory loss, some of the things that go along with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. Next slide. LGBTQ adults as caregivers. They become caregivers at a higher rate than the general population. 35% of caregivers are providing care to a partner or spouse, 32% to a friend, 16% to a parent, and 7% to another relative. And caregivers in the LGBTQ community are more likely than non-caregivers to report a disability, depression, victimization, and verbal and physical abuse. Next slide. Who are the caregivers? Many LGBTQ older adults may not have a relationship with their legal or biological families, and they're instead supported by their families of choice. They are twice as likely to age without a spouse or partner, and 3 or 4 times less likely to have children. About 2/3 of dementia caregivers in the US are women, but in the LGBTQ communities, both men and women have a high likelihood of caregiving. LGBTQ caregivers often have limited legal power and can be excluded from decisions regarding where the person they care for will reside or what health care they will receive. Next slide. And then there are different issues among LGBTQ older adults with dementia. Many have hidden their sexual or gender identities for much of their lives, and memory loss can introduce challenges surrounding how they manage their identities and the extent that they reveal or conceal their identity as their memory loss progresses. So this statement is a really good example of that. I'm over 50, a trans health activist, afraid that my insistence on being who I am confuses people. I'm afraid of dementia and Alzheimer's. What if I go back to my 10 or 20-year-old self as a girl or a woman? Next slide. So all of these factors and issues put together are what brought Karen Fredrickson Goldson to come up with Aging with Pride IDEA program. A quote from Karen: "Studies show that LGBTQ+ older adults with memory loss and their care partners are an understudied population. Our project is designed to aid in the development of much needed interventions for other vulnerable midlife and older adult populations." Next slide. So let's talk about the IDEA study. It's based upon a proven intervention, a proven treatment program that was done by Linda Terry, one of the co-investigators in the School of Nursing. The program was called Reducing Disability in Alzheimer's Disease, or RDAD, and that program was shown in the general population of folks in the non-LGBTQ community, folks who are caregivers, caring for somebody with memory loss. That intervention was shown to reduce institutionalization among the people with memory loss, reduce stress for the person with memory loss and their caregiver, and increase physical activity in both the person with memory loss and their caregiver. So IDEA is based upon the intervention that's already been proven to be effective, and it's adding an enhanced component that addresses the unique risks, strengths, and resilience in the LGBTQ community. Next slide. So the nuts and bolts of the IDEA program. There are 9 visits over 6 weeks with a trained coach who meets with the person with memory loss and the person who helps them. They participate in this program as a pair. The visits take place virtually using DoxyMe. All of that thanks to the pandemic, we're doing everything virtually. Coaches follow up with participants after the virtual coaching ends with 4 monthly phone calls. And then there are 5 assessment interviews that are done by phone during a 1-year period. And this is where we're getting the data that tells us whether what we're doing is really effective or not. And the pair receives $25 for each assessment they complete. So if they do all 5, that's $125. Next slide. What did the coaches teach? Well, there's 4 primary components. There's problem solving. There's coaching to identify consistent areas of tension and brainstorm ideas and approaches to improve behavior problems that are experienced by the person with memory loss. Communication. There's coaching and strategies to address communication challenges related to memory loss, dementia. There's a low-level exercise program that includes stretching, flexibility, balance, and endurance to strengthen the body, support independence, reduce injury, and improve mood. And then the 4th component addresses the distinct risks and strengths of LGBTQ+ participants. Next slide. Who's eligible for the IDEA program? So the person with memory loss and the person who helps them both participate in the study as a pair. Either the person with memory loss or their caregiver must be LGBTQ. Most instances, they're both LGBTQ, but only one of them needs to be LGBTQ. They do not need to live together. If they're in separate residences, that's fine. They can still join the program. And the person with memory loss must have a diagnosis of dementia or memory loss severe enough to reduce their ability to perform everyday activities. And this is self-reported. We don't check in with their primary care health provider. It's totally what they report in terms of whether they have a dementia diagnosis or memory loss. And then the person with memory loss must be at least 50 years old. Next slide. So because this is a research study, we're gathering data. We're not able to look at the data until we're all done with it. But we have gotten some pretty impressive participant feedback regarding the program, and I'm going to read some of the comments we've gotten. My partner and I just finished this research project. It's excellent for exercise and also problem solving with someone with dementia in our community. Her dementia has advanced pretty far. It was so good for her and myself, and I think people in the beginning stages too. Our coach was excellent, and we modified the exercises to meet our needs. We will continue using the problem-solving method we learned and got great ideas for support. Another comment, I feel strongly that Aging with Pride idea made such a difference. I was able to receive what I needed. You gave me new things to consider with support. And the last comment I have here, I love the exercises. Before this program, I couldn't put on my socks. Now I can. Something most of us take for granted, but was really something important for the person who participated in the program and loved the exercises. Next slide. So, we have a number of outreach resources. We're still doing the study and trying to get as many participants who are eligible to participate. We have a wonderful website at ageidea.org. On that website, there is a video. It's a short, less than 2-minute video that describes the program. And then we have flyers and postcards that are available on our website to be downloaded. They can be passed around. They can be sent to other people via email. We're asking folks to get the word out any way they can so that people are aware of this program. Next slide, please. And we're on social media. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram posts. And one thing I want to mention that's not in the slides, the program is available throughout the country. Since we've gone virtual, we are doing it in all 50 states. So even if you know somebody not in the Seattle area, King County area, we are in every state in the country. Next slide, please. References, we're a research study, so a lot of the slides had data. These are the references for that. Next slide. For more information, we have a toll-free number devoted to this study. It is 1-888-655-6646. We have a great website, ageidea.org. We have an email address, ageidea@uw.edu. Feel free to contact us any one of those ways. And also you can contact me. My email is amoore@uw.edu. And my phone line is 206-543-8445. Thanks so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. Thank you for coming back and for updating us on what you've been up to. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, don't go anywhere yet, Amy. Let's go ahead and go over to our phone participants and see what questions they may have for us.
Are some of the design intervention, like the person who benefited from the real help that you provided in getting them back to health, putting their socks on? That's something I personally relate to. Is any of that information available yet for the public, or how do we access that? What's envisioned there?
Thank you so much for your question. So, Amy, I don't know if you heard the question, and that's these two systems don't necessarily talk to each other. So the person said, thank you so much for sharing that very sort of special anecdote about putting the socks on. That really resonated with them. The question was, is this information available to the public at the moment?
That's a great question. So this is a research study, and until the research study is completed and we have results telling us whether this program is effective or not, it can't be released to the public. But the plan certainly is, once we know what components of the program works and if it works, to have it be available so that people working in Alzheimer's Association and area agencies on aging, working with older adults, working with the LGBTQ community who are experiencing memory loss and caregiving, can have this program as a package and can do it with their clients, their customers, their constituents. So we're still trying to figure out if this program works, but that feedback is pretty impressive, I agree. And I would mention the exercise program. I mean, who wants to exercise, right? But people do love it. They really love it, and they love the results. So we're really excited to find out if it's going to be proven to be efficacious and effective for folks in the study.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for addressing that. And I think we have time for one more question here. And I think this is more of a general question. And if you already mentioned it, apologies, but how long will this program be going on?
Great question. So we plan on continuing enrolling people into this program throughout 2021. Depending upon whether we meet our goal or not, we may go longer, but it's certainly going to be available throughout this year.
All right. Good enough. Well, let's leave it there. Amy, if you can, please stick around at the end. At the very tail end of the show, we may have time for questions for the entire panel. Thank you again for your presentation. We'll once this is on YouTube, we'll link it up to your previous presentation so folks can get a sense for what the difference is over a year's time, and we'll see you in a little bit. All right, if we could go to the next slide at this point. Thank you very much. Our next presenter is from the AIDS Memorial Pathway, and I do have an introduction here. You don't see him yet, nor do you see his name on the slide yet, but let me go ahead and bring him onto the stage here. This is Tom Rasmussen, who is a former City of Seattle council member, and may I also add a former director of the Mayor's Office for Senior Citizens. That's what I'm hearing around my circles here at Human Services Department. Age-friendly has sort of became an iteration of what that was. So really great to have you back on. I believe you will provide an overview of the AMP. And it was completed or going to be completed this summer on Capitol Hill in Seattle. While a council member, Tom, back in 2015, called for the creation of an AIDS memorial here in Seattle. And he ended up successfully urging the mayor and the council colleagues to approve funding to begin planning for an AIDS memorial. And during the last 5 years, a committee of volunteers planned this memorial, which is now called the AIDS Memorial Pathway, or the AMP, and have raised $2.8 million for its completion. I'm sure you'll hear more about it, but multiple artists were commissioned to fulfill the goals of the AMP. And those are to use public art to create a physical place for remembrance and reflection, employ technology to share diverse stories about the epidemic, and to provide a call to action to end HIV/AIDS, stigma, and discrimination. And again, I'm sure Tom will talk more about that as well, but I believe the planned dedication date is Saturday, June 26th. So to talk more about that, here's Tom Rasmussen.
I want to give you a little bit of a background about me and the AIDS Memorial Pathway, which I'll call the AMP for short, AMP. In the early 1970s, I was living in Yakima, and there I met Steve, and I fell in love for the first time in my life. He was a student at the University of Washington and was home for the summer. Shortly after meeting Steve, I was out of Yakima. I moved to Capitol Hill to live with them, and Capitol Hill had become Seattle's gay neighborhood. In the 1970s and early 80s, the gay rights movement was slowly succeeding, and we had never felt so open or free. Steve became a flight attendant, and I joined him on visits to cities with large gay populations, New York, San Francisco, Honolulu, Vancouver, and more. We had a lot of fun. By 1981, we began to hear about a disease that was showing up mostly in gay men. It first appeared as spots on the skin or as swollen lymph glands. It almost always killed people within 24 months. It was called the gay cancer, but no one knew what was causing it. Soon, people we knew were becoming ill and dying, and that exuberance and freedom we felt was fading very fast. We were overwhelmed by the dread of the disease. So many people around us were dying. We were angry that government was looking the other way. People took to the streets, held sit-ins and confrontations with public officials, demanding research and care for people with AIDS. And now, people who had organized for our civil rights began also organizing to help young men who were ill and had been abandoned by their family and friends, who lost their jobs or who were too weak to feed themselves or clean their homes. In 1986, Steve showed me some spots on his legs, and we knew what that meant. We were terrified. The next 18 months were spent in doctors' offices and hospitals, and there was no hope of survival. Steve died in 1988. By 1996, effective treatment for HIV/AIDS that prolongs lives first became available. It's still not a cure, but it was too late for Steve and too late for over 3,000 mostly young gay men who had died from AIDS in King County. By that time, so many people had died that I thought I'd lost all my friends. I share that with you now as the background for what comes next. As Lenny said, I was elected to the Seattle City Council. That was in 2003. I fell in love and married Clayton Lewis 3 years ago. While on the City Council, I was encouraged to have Seattle follow the example of other cities and create an AIDS memorial. In 2015, during my last year on the Seattle City Council, a powerful art exhibit called Art AIDS America came to the Tacoma Art Museum. It displayed art created in response to the HIV/AIDS epidemic. The Tacoma exhibit motivated me to take action to create a memorial. If I and others who lived through those terrible first years didn't do this, who would? As Lenny mentioned, I was successful in getting city funds to help develop a plan for the memorial. And the next slide will tell you the mission of the AIDS Memorial Pathway. Next slide, please. Slide 2 shows our mission, as Lenny mentioned. When the funding was approved by the City Council, they gave us 3 goals: to create a place of reflection and remembrance, to tell the stories of HIV/AIDS in our diverse community, and to call people to action to end HIV/AIDS and stigma and discrimination against people with HIV/AIDS. So I contacted Leonard Garfield, the executive director of the Museum of History and Industry, to help me lead this effort. Was he supportive? And he was. Then we asked people who have been involved in AIDS activism and others to help. We now have an advisory committee, all volunteers, with the exception of 2 part-time staff, to complete our work. And our work began in 2016. So our first task was to find a place, a location for the memorial. And today we have that place. Next slide, please. Here is the site. This is the bird's eye view of the location. We're looking at Volunteer Park. We're above Volunteer Park, and we're looking towards the north. And we identified this site on Capitol Hill. It is a city block now above the underground light rail station on Broadway. It had been a construction site, and it was to become an apartment complex built around a public plaza. The owner agreed to allow the memorial to be placed there, and the city allowed the memorial also to be placed in part on the north end of Cal Anderson Park. But what was to be created at the site? We needed a plan. So we hired Horatio Loth, an artist, to develop the plan. The next slide will show you the plan for the site. So this is a site plan that shows all of the locations of art. And there will be 4 permanent arts installations, and this shows where those will go. Landy, I don't know if you or whoever is operating this can point out the various sites, but there's a community room, there's a public plaza, and the north end of the park also is, as I mentioned earlier, a site for the art. The next slides that I'll show you are of the art which has been designed for each site. Now, slide 5 shows the community art room. The community room is located at the northeast corner of the new building at John and 10th Avenue East. It's the only art that's actually within a building. It was created by Storm Weber, and it's entitled, "In This Way We Love One Another." It has photographs and text on the walls of people who cared for each other while also working for social justice. The next commissioned art is the center art piece, and it's entitled, "And I'm Going to Miss Everybody." Next slide, please. The artist, Christopher Paul Jordan, created a 20 by 20 foot metal sculpture with images of loudspeakers. It looks like a big plus sign that's tilted on its side. The plus sign represents HIV positive, or HIV plus, which is a designation of HIV infection. The speakers are a reminder of how important music is in the queer culture, and it was even during the early days of AIDS. And it's also a reminder of the speakers that were used during protests. The third installation is called "We Are Already Here." Next slide, please. The studio called Civilization created steel sculptures in the form of protest signs that are inscribed with language from the 1980s. The name was inspired by an encounter with an AIDS activist, Brian Day, when an AIDS hospice was proposed for Seattle's Madison Valley. Some neighbors said they didn't want people with AIDS living around them. When Brian was asked what his response was, he said, "We're already here." The next slide will show the entire plaza when you look north from Cal Anderson Park. This is a full view of the plaza. You can see and I'm going to miss everybody, the big plus on the side in the back. And then you'll see the protest signs. They're made out of metal that are scattered throughout the site. The other great thing about this site, not only is it a place for the memorial, but also it's a great gathering place, and it's a site of the Capitol Hill Farmers Market. One of our goals in finding a location was we wanted to be open and accessible in a very well-populated place, and this is that neighborhood. The next slide is of our final art installation. It's actually on the north edge of Cal Anderson Park, and it faces the plaza that you just saw. It's called the Ribbon of Light. It was created by Horatio Law, and it's composed of 3 large laminated glass sculptures, which are going to be illuminated from the inside with words to inspire the viewer. That work is just beginning now, and it'll probably be completed in July. The other works that you saw earlier are already at the site, so I encourage you to go up to the Capitol Light Rail Station and see what has been created. Next slide, please. One of the important things that I mentioned earlier is that our goal is to tell the stories of HIV/AIDS in our community, and I told you a little bit about my life and experience. But this memorial is not about me. There are thousands of other stories in our community. We want people to tell their stories, and we selected a story gatherer, Rosette Royale, who has recorded over 30 interviews of those who have been impacted by HIV and AIDS. And you can see those powerful interviews on our website. Finally, we're developing an app, and this app will be able to be used on your phone to help learn about the AMP, AIDS, and available resources. It will also include a list of names of those who's lost their lives to AIDS in our community. So next slide, please. We're nearing the end of our work on the app, as Lenny said. We've raised over $2.8 million, much of it from donations from the community. And we're going to have a dedication take place on Saturday, June 26th. There'll be an open house for the public to drop by between noon and 3 o'clock to meet the artist and view the artwork. I really appreciate being invited to speak to you today. And please remember, there's still no vaccine to fight HIV, and there's still no cure. I'd be happy to take any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom, and thank you for being here today. This is your first time on the program, but not the first time at the City of Seattle.
No.
So great to have you on, and certainly Mayor's Office for Senior Citizens has been a resource for so many years. So thank you for your service with that office for
my honor. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna do our switch over to the phones, and again, Tom, you will not hear what the person on the phone is saying, but the live audience will. So right. I will listen very carefully, and then we will repeat the question for you to respond. And you're live on Close to Home.
One question I have is there any way to contribute to the stories after the Pathways project is inaugurated?
Yes, actually, if you go to our website, which is www.theamp.org, there is a place where you can actually record a story. So I think I'm really glad you asked that question. While this major part of our work is being completed now by early summer, there's still much more that can be done. We've only scratched the surface of the stories in our community. It's amazing to me when I go out to speak to people to raise funds or talk about support for our project, how so many people have stories, heartbreaking stories of parents, brothers, sisters, spouses, lovers who have died, and they have not spoken about it for years. And so there are many stories out there, and I think that it would be wonderful if those who go to our website would be willing to share theirs with others.
Great. And sounds like somehow that question did come through to you, Tom. Who knows, wonders of technology. And this project, the AMP, it calls for the use of technology. So it's wonderful that these stories can be told through those means.
Right.
There is, looks like we have a comment there. Let me turn it over to one of our moderators here, Gita. Gita, what is that a comment or a question in there in the chat?
It's a very positive comment. It says, Tom, you rock. I have appreciated your work to promote accessibility for so many years. I assume you're putting similar focus on physical, hearing, and vision access to the AMP. I look forward to visiting it.
Yes, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, accessibility is really important, not only with regard to mobility being at a great place with good public transit, but also we have Braille on the signs, and we always have people who are sign language translators for us as well. So making this accessible as much as possible is very, very important to us. I really appreciate that question.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. And one of our shows a month ago for Better Hearing Month was the first time we ever brought on an ASL interpreter. And yes. It was technologically, it was even more challenging than what we're doing today. But we made it happen, and this is part of the reason why we have this WebEx interface being streamed through Teams. That way we could bring on an ASL interpreter and yet still offer captioning in a number of languages, actually English and 6 other languages.
I think that's very important to do. I knew some of the people that I watched your program. I know some of the people who were on the program. I took the lead on getting the hearing loop installed at City Hall, and now it's being done in other rooms that the city owns or buildings that the city owns. So the folks that were there are great advocates for hearing accessibility in our community, and they're making great progress. But sometimes there's some pushback and a lot of resistance. It took a while to get that hearing loop installed at City Hall. You can't imagine the reasons given to me why this is going to cost us huge amounts of money, but we got it done. It didn't cost that amount, and I'm so glad that was mentioned. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Tom, we have to leave it here. I want to thank you, but if you can stick around till the end, maybe we'll have some time for a few additional questions. There is a quick comment in here, though, that says that Hearing Loss Association of America, Washington chapter can advise on installation of a hearing loop. So I'm sure you're well connected with that organization. So
it's a great resource.
Yeah. Again, thank you for your presentation today, and let's move along to our final panelist, and that is Stephen Knipp with GenPride. Really great to welcome you back on the program, Stephen. Let me just quickly introduce who Stephen is, even though you may have seen him last year. Stephen Knipp is the executive director of GenPride and a longtime Seattle resident. His interest in LGBTQ aging stemmed from the reluctant, dawning realization that he himself was aging and did not have a clue what his life as an older gay man would look like. He's grateful for the opportunity to get to know such talented, passionate people who have worked tirelessly on the issues of growing older as an LGBTQ person. Being a part of creating a new kind of a community where growing older is looked upon as a gift instead of a curse is what inspires him to do his work. And Stephen, welcome back. You're on. Take it away.
Thanks, Lenny. It's great to be here a second time. I appreciate being welcome back. Hello, everyone. This is a little presentation about kind of what GenPride is doing now and a little bit about what's coming in the future for GenPride. Just to give people a quick background, Gen Pride is a local nonprofit organization that focuses on the lives of older LGBTQ people. We began operations in 2016, so we're relatively new. The need to provide specialized services for our elder community has been well received, and Gen Pride has been making great strides in growing our agency to meet those needs. Next slide, please. This is what we're focused on in 2021. On the screen is the budget growth for Gen Pride from 2016 to 2021. We've gone from a $78,000 budget in 2016, which was actually funding we received from the city of Seattle to begin, to an annual budget in 2021 of $834,000. So it's been a really significant growth in our organization's budgeting and program. This is in large part due to the growing recognition by our funders and our community of how important this work is. And the growing need for services has remained high. Building organizational infrastructure to keep up with this growth and increasing programs for our participants is our primary goal this year. And on the screen, there's a few different things that we're working on. We're expanding our cultural competency trainings. We're launching a caregiver support program this year. We're hoping to reopen our senior center when things are safe. Next slide, please. And these are the programs and activities we have planned for 2021. We've already started doing COVID vaccination assistance, online fitness classes, information and assistance and case management, caregiving support, movie nights, educational workshops, Gen Tales, which is a new program that we're doing to collect video and written stories from our seniors, and we'll be doing drop-in hours later in the year when things become safe. We've seen a steady increase in attendance since our programs went virtual. So we plan to continue virtual programming as an option from here on out. From our COVID outreach early in the pandemic to all of the programs I mentioned earlier, we are continually looking for ways to connect with older LGBTQ adults and their supporters. We are also building, like I mentioned, our caregiver support program and our storytelling workshops this year. I did want to highlight a group project that we completed last year. Gen Pride participants in our popular writers workshop published a collection of short stories by LGBTQI seniors titled Unmuted, Stories of Courage and Resilience from the Gen Pride Community. These stories highlight the resilience and determination of our community as we faced off personal challenges. You can purchase your copy this month and get a 25% discount by logging onto our website and going to, there's a code word there, Pride 2021 will get you a 25% discount when you go to our website and purchase your book from there. Next slide, please. Before I update everyone on another exciting project we are working on, I'd like to introduce a few Gen Pride participants. First up here is Glenda West, who is a big proponent of community building. She poses the question, what does it mean to find your place? As LGBTQ people, the answer has always been a part of our story. Next slide, please. And here's another participant, Eric Carter, who speaks to some of that story that Glenda talks about. If the families we were born into weren't safe, we found community. When we found discrimination and hate, we've sought justice. And in our senior years, we deserve a place to call home. Well, Eric, now we have one. Next slide, please. This is the new LGBTQ affordable housing project we're building. It's called Pride Place, and this will be Seattle's first LGBTQ affirming affordable housing building on Capitol Hill. This is right on Broadway, right in the center of Capitol Hill. In my mind, this is a great way for us to kind of stake our territory on Capitol Hill, much like the AMP project is doing. This is just like a block away or two from this facility. You know, we really want to make sure that our presence is remembered and known here. We are actually breaking ground this summer. We're looking to do this in August. So stay tuned to announcements from Gen Pride on how that will look. Next slide, please. This is a bird's eye view of the space. It's a 4,400 square foot floor plan on the ground floor with offices for staff, a community gathering space that's fully equipped with a commercial kitchen and audio-visual equipment. There will also be space designed for our partners to provide healthcare services on site. Next slide, please. And this is a rendition of the community gathering space within the building. You'll see that there's kind of two separate areas. This is a very flexible space that can be divided into two rooms. We'll have dining rooms and places to have lunches and meals. There'll be a place just to come and hang out and have coffee and chat. The room is very flexible. We can break this off into two separate rooms or make it one large room. But we're really excited to see how the community engages at our location. Next slide, please. So for those of you who are looking for information about Pride Place, you can log on to our website, which is www.genprideseattle.org, and you'll see the image that says sign up for our newsletter. It'll be right on the front page when you log in. So when you click on that, you'll see another sign, or another page that shows you that you can either sign up for all of our emails, which come out about once a week, or you can just receive things on our senior housing update. And just to clarify, the building is not open right now for applications. If you sign up for our newsletter here, you'll get some up-to-date information as to when the project will be accepting applications, which will happen sometime in late 2022. Next slide, please. Linda Marchesani, who's a Gen Pride volunteer, I think she sums up nicely what this space will mean to us, that it is a place to bring our whole selves. She says, these are my people, and we deserve a place to bring our whole selves. So I think was very well said. Next slide, please. And before I close, I wanted to acknowledge the team behind everything that we do at Gen Pride. Beatrix McGillis is our communications and operations manager. Sherry Schumacher is our program and volunteer manager. Mitch Hunter is our training manager. Claudine Wallace is our social worker. Tony Krebs is our digital program specialist. And Sonia Frojan has recently joined our staff as our new administrative assistant. So this does not happen in a vacuum. There's a lot of people behind this work. And last slide. I wanted to let you know that for Pride this year, we'll be in the Seattle Pride on June 26th. We'll be showing a 30-minute video on Gen Pride and some of the historical information and history stories of our community. And we'll also be talking about kind of what Gen Pride has been doing this year and then also what our future holds. You can, if you just Google Seattle Pride 2021, you can see where you can sign up for that free event. And I believe that the Gen Pride presentation is on Saturday at 11 a.m. And that'll be followed. We'll be hosting a drop-in chat space immediately following our presentation, where you'll have a number of opportunities to talk to some of our staff. So thank you. That's my presentation. Back to you, Lenny.
Thank you so much, Stephen. You know, you were here last time, almost a year ago, and now seeing these pictures, I mean, as an ally, it makes me so happy to see that building. It's a rainbow building, right? Like exactly. Those awnings. I want to credit one of your colleagues that I interact with. So Mitch, I think, has coined the phrase rainbow elders.
Yes. Maybe
that's something that could take off, you know, nationwide and worldwide. We'll see.
Yeah,
I really love it. So thank you again for coming back and giving us an update. I do believe there is a question or a comment there online, and for that we're going to go back to Gita. Gita, what are folks saying there in the live Q&A?
One comment that came in was, thank you, Stephen and team, great work. Just a positive comment.
Great, thank you.
I think there's one more. I see it now. So to both Tom and Steve, please send information about special events to, and this is an email address, aginginfo, all one word, at seattle.gov. In time to publish in AgeWise, usually middle of the month prior to the event. So just for a little background, AgeWise is a publication by the Aging and Disability Services, which is the area agency on aging for Seattle and King County. And it's what we call an e-zine, like a magazine online, an e-zine. And then, you're welcome to become a contributor and an author of one of the articles. Let's see. One other one here. Jen Pride does fantastic work. You'll have done a great job of providing virtual and online events through this last year. And I have been paying attention to your digital offerings page. Do you think you will continue with online events? And before you answer, I wanted to say that thank you for showing us that space. What I immediately thought of, hey, that might look like a good place to have a coffee hour.
Exactly.
Or at least if we're if we're having a coffee hour at the library, we could maybe broadcast, set up a large screen TV, have an audience there, and you can ask questions like folks on the phone were asking today, or
That'd be awesome.
So what about it?
Well, thanks for your question. And one thing that we realized during last year is that virtual programming was just essential, obviously, for folks to connect. And one of the things that became very clear early on is that we had a lot of people that were joining us that were never able to join before. So to answer your question directly, absolutely yes. We are pivoting our entire operation so that once we do get back together, we'll still have virtual programming and in-person programming that'll happen all the time. In fact, that's one of the reasons why we've really upped up our infrastructure around digital programming. Tony Krebs has been working with our operations manager, Beatrix, to really strengthen our virtual online presentations. We can do this on a regular basis and really be more accessible, which I think is really important.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like if you have movie viewings, for example,
Yes.
Online might still be an option. Is that true?
Absolutely. And in fact, our movie nights that we started a few months ago have become one of our most popular programs. We often have over 50 people that attend. And it's been really fun to not only watch the movies together, but people spend an hour or so after the movies just in discussion. And that we've heard from people is kind of their favorite part of the whole movie night. So
very good. Well, what I'd like to do at this point is, since we probably have about a minute or so, I definitely want to bring back the panel participants onto the stage again. First off, just to give you thanks, and I'll actually jump off the stage for a second and then come back so that you are all together. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for helping us kick off Pride Month virtually right now. I know rumor has it that there is plans for Pride Fest and Pride Parade for August. Hopefully that does happen, but we'll start virtually. Technology can help us. I have this. My computer sits on a box that says technology matters. Boy, did we learn that over the past year or year and a half, and hopefully we can continue using it to bring people together. Are there any last sort of comments that you would like to issue before we wrap up for today?
Well, I'd just like to encourage people to go to our website. It's www.theamp.org, just lowercase THEAMP.org, and see all that we've been able to do. And then also come to our site on June 26th around noon. Capitol Hill Light Rail Station.
Yeah, mark your calendars.
Yes.
I was over there yesterday, Tom, and it's really a wonderful site. I love the way the whole plaza works. It's just beautiful. Nice job.
It's a wonderful, warm, welcoming place, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I sat there in the sun and just kind of soaked it all in yesterday. It was quite lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Stephen. And thank you, Amy. for your return appearance, and for being here for this month that again designates both memory loss and pride. And so to making a presentation on both, that's really special for us. That you found the time to be here. So thank you all. If we could go on to the next slide. Speaking of marking calendars, our celebration of Pride Month continues. And as I mentioned, we will be welcoming a government panel on the 17th of June. But if we look forward to the next close to home, which is a community space for older adults in our area to connect, we will be speaking with Alessia Kennedy. And she is the founder and executive director of Women United. I encourage you to tune in on July 1st, Thursday, 10:30 to 11:30, learn about kinship care, specifically support for grandmothers caring for their grandchildren as primary caregivers. I really look forward to learning more about that. And you can start by even visiting their website today. It's womenunitedseattle.org. And a reminder that if you have questions beyond, things that you've heard here today, we certainly want to encourage you to go ahead and take advantage of Community Living Connections as a resource. It's a network of organizations all around Seattle and King County. And Gen Pride is one of these organizations, and we certainly appreciate them being in the network. Their phone number is 844-348-5464. This is for Community Living Connections, not just Gen Pride. And their website is communitylivingconnections.org. We hope that you enjoyed this program today. Go ahead and click that subscribe button and, smash the like button. It helps us grow. It helps us bring this programming to you. And we thank you for being an age-friendly champion. I want to wish you the best of days today and for the rest of this Pride Month. Take care, everybody, and have a good one.